Okay, so yes, I named this app AI-LBUM. Didn't actually think of how it would speak when I thought it looked good written, and didn't try saying it out loud until too late. So why this app? It started off as the concept of a digital portfolio for my wife, because she's an artist, and she's always asking me to do a website for her, and I always want to and can never quite find the time. So that was where the initial spark of inspiration for this came from. This is probably a little over-engineered for something like that. That could be a static site. I decided on a tech stack that I wanted to play around with. It was a combination of some stuff that I haven't used in a while, and some stuff that I wanted to try out. And it didn't hurt that it's also a similar tech stack to an SP that I'm talking with. Then I decided for the purposes of this, I wanted to try playing around with DALL-E, just for fun, to get the image content for it. And then all of this kind of turned into an exercise in image management. Yeah, so the tech stack that I'm working with is I have a Next.js front end, a Node.js backend, a little bit of MongoDB, and using the DALL-E API to get images. I'm going to jump into a demo. So there are basically three things you can do with the DALL-E API. You can generate images, you can create variant images based on an image you pass in, or you can edit images. And so yeah, here, let's just go into generate, and you pass it like any kind of a prompt. I kind of stuck with like painting style for this because of the initial inspiration of the site, but really it can do anything, but like just throw in a random prompt. And I don't like that one. I'm going to generate another. Half of this project is me just generating random things from prompts. That one's better. But yeah, so it's like you can enter anything and it'll give you an image. I then made a bit of a gallery to show off some of these. These are all things that I generated randomly in here. And you'll see at the bottom the frogs that I just did. Then, you know, from there, I did also implement, let's see, one with a little, this one has some detail, the variation. So you can click on it and then just say, you know, this will basically give me a different version of this same image. This doesn't have to be from AI images. You could do it from an image that you already have. But yeah, it just does slightly different versions of it. So, I mean, that's basically the state of the app as I have it. I wanted to play around with the editing images, but the main issue I ran into with that is it wants you to upload. You have to put a like you send it an image that you want to edit, and also like a mask of like where it's allowed to edit in that image. And because I was working with dynamically generated images, I didn't have a good way to dynamically generate where a mask would be for it. Couple options that I thought of was just like have a couple option sets to pick from, or like, you know, stretch goals, have the user be able to like draw on it and say like, you know, right here, add a frog or something. I don't know why my brain's on frogs right now. But yeah, so a couple things about working with DALL-E is that it can give you back images either as a URL or as base64 data. Initially, I was like, URLs are great, you know, I can just reference them, but they only guarantee their URLs will be there, or like that there will be something at the other end of that for an hour. So I was like, okay, if I'm doing a gallery, that's not going to fly. I need those to stick around for a little longer. So then I had to come up with a way that I was going to store them. You can generate images in that they're only squares right now, but 256 pixels, 512, or 1024. Obviously, the bigger the image, the longer it takes to generate. Yeah, so then a couple challenges and considerations that I had to, when I said at the beginning that it turned into an exercise in image management, was once I decided, okay, I can't trust their URLs, how do I want to store them? And in most previous projects I've worked on, if you're using images in your site, usually you have either it's like referencing somewhere a URL that you know is more stable, or you're actually storing a copy of that image in your project. So if I was going to do this like in a, say, production environment, I would probably, use something like an S3 bucket or GCS for storing my images. I didn't want to go through the overhead of setting all of that up for this. So I did initially just, whoops, that's going to change the slide on me. Okay. I did initially float the idea of storing it in a database, but there are drawbacks to that because if the images get too large, you can run into issues. And then also when I was sending the images from the back end to the front end, you're sending a lot of data instead of just a reference to an image somewhere else. So this project ended up being a lot of playing around with how I wanted to handle images, how I wanted to serve images, and then how can I optimize the performance. What I ended up going with for this is I just store them on the file system for now. And yeah, then I was also playing around with some of Next.js's sort of like performance optimizations. So they use lazy loading for images by default. But then I was also not like specific for images, but I was playing around with things like get static props and get server side props to see like if I could get it to behave any faster if I sort of like loaded those at different points in the life cycle. So like for the gallery view in particular, I'm loading those as get static props. And whoa. Scrolled accidentally. Yeah, so next steps, obviously the standard answers of unit testing, improving my front-end styles, some input validation, because I'm not really doing that. I'm the only user inputting stuff, so I trust myself not to break it. But that's just, that prompt is wide open. Hosting and securing resources. So if I was to set up like an S3 bucket or something like that, making sure that that is secure for public access. Image editing, as I mentioned earlier, with like having to highlight, like create masks on them, and being able to give a prompt to edit existing images, and then just more playing around with performance testing. Maybe use, yeah, I'm just at time now, but so yeah, questions.
First of all, nice job, Andrew. That was great. Curious if you've shown your wife this yet.
I haven't. Well, I mean, she was around when I was like just playing around with the prompt stuff a little bit. So she was like, she did, throw me some prompts for me to input. I also felt like my slides were looking a little lackluster, so I generated those images to throw in there.
Beautiful. I love it. I see David's got his hand up, so we'll throw it over to him.
Yeah, I'm curious. I haven't interacted with the Dolly API. What format are those images coming in? Are they just JPEGs or?
They're PNGs.
PNGs.
And so it's either like like as I said a little bit earlier, it's like they'll either the API will either return you a URL to some place that they've like after they've generated it, it'll short-term hosting somewhere, or it'll return it as base64 encoded data.
Yeah, and like a 1024 square PNG of that amount of detail is gonna get kind of chunky.
Yeah, that all the ones that I showed were in the middle chunk, 5 whatever.
Yeah, I'm curious about the in painting stuff, like the mask. Like,
Yeah.
what do you know what format they expect for you to send the mask to the API?
So the mask also has to be a PNG.
Okay.
It has to be the same size as the image, like the same aspect ratio. And yeah, so it's like you specify it, so it's got to be like the exact same size as the image that you want to edit, and then you specify like the mask has to show where it's allowed to update. And with that, you also send a prompt to say, like, to describe, it says the image in its entirety, not just the change you want to make. Apparently. And yeah, I was all excited to play around with that because it sounds really fun. And the docs say that the mask is optional. But when I tried to do it without it, it didn't work. And then looking up, looking on forums and stuff, people are like, yeah, it's not optional.
Yeah, I remember building some stuff where you can paint on a canvas and then it you convert the buffer into an image file. But I guess that would have to be like you take the buffer, convert it to a PNG, and then base64 encode that and then send it over to.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing I was thinking about doing. Like, obviously, this is like stretch goals. I did not have time to implement something like that with the one we caught. But yeah, I was thinking of having like a canvas over top, or just like having a couple, little circle options. And so it's like, you click a quadrant or something like that. And I would just have like a predefined mask that shows that quadrant or something.
No, yeah, that's a good way to de-scope that a little bit. Good stuff.
Excellent. Amit.
Yeah, Andrew. Yeah, you are using DALL-E, so how you can use it? Like Stable Diffusion is already there. Why, like we always have these AI comparisons, why not that and why this? So how you chose this rather than Stable Diffusion? Because
I mean, honestly, it was just because I was it was from after the conversations that we had at the last all hands. Like, there was so much talk about like the different open AI projects and Chat GPT and stuff like that. So I was just browsing the OpenAI website and found out, it was like, oh, DALL-E 2.0 now available for public use. And that's where, like, initially I was, I was thinking like gallery app, display my wife's art and stuff like that. And then I was just like, oh, that could be fun. Just so I didn't necessarily pick it over a different AI image generating thing. It was more just, I saw it and was like, that seems fun. Let's try it.
And artists, I don't think they like these AI things. So how
that's that? What I was. I mean, so apparently my wife doesn't care. She did say that, but I like mentioned this as I told her that this is what I was doing, and I was kind of excited about it. And she's like, "Oh, artists don't like AI generated art." And I was like, "Oh, didn't realize this was was that kind of a topic." To me, it was just something fun to do. We're developers, we're all about open source stuff. But yeah, artists, it's because a lot of the time it does, like, pull pieces of other people's arts to make these images, and yeah, they're not as forgiving about the stealing.
I have a small question. I know you mentioned in your project regarding you can create variations of the image.
Yeah.
Does that, maybe I'm not familiarized with the API of DALL-E. Can you use any of your own image, or it have to be generated
No, it's
through
any
DALL-E?
image. It doesn't know that
Any
the
image,
image I'm
okay.
passing in is an
The
AI
file.
image. I'm literally like sending it the PNG, and then just that one, like you can't like give any prompts for how it should like, you know, what you want the variation to be. It's like, just give me a variation of this. And again, all of my examples were kind of like art styled based on just like the theming that I was going for with the site. But it's like, it can also do like photos and stuff too, right?
Got it. One follow-up question on this one. So
Mhm.
when you upload, have you given a thought, or have you checked it, or have you about the bandwidth or the data usage during the uploading the image to DALL-E and then receiving it back? Have you seen any of the expense to it? Have you given a thought to that?
Well, and so that's a little bit what I was talking about with, I would want to do more around like performance checking, and like analyzing some of that stuff. But for the most part, the main thing that where I like ran into issues where it was like, oh, this is too much, was when I was actually trying to, instead of like from my server to the front end, I was trying to send the image like, you know, as data instead of just as a URL. And that was getting to be, even Next was complaining that the page that it was too much data, and it, you know, was running into some issues. So that's why I'm now just saving it to the file system and then sharing links to locations.
Perfect. No, that's great. Thank you.
Juliana?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think this is a simple one. So, like, how open it is right now? Like, do you have to? Is there like a completely public API, or do you have to sign up for a key, or there's like a free tier? Like how?
So it's an OpenAI account. So it's like this is their image API, but also they have like one APIs for code and text as well. And so it's like a shared resource. You do have, like, I did set up an API key, so that this is actually like, you know, referencing like that it's my account. You get a credit of like $18 when you first sign up. And I've been generating a lot of images, and I've maybe spent $3 of that free 18. So if you already have an OpenAI account and you've used it a whole bunch, then you might be paying a little bit for it. But yeah.
Great, thanks.
Excellent. Lots of awesome questions coming up today. Appreciate everyone asking those. Shout out to Daman too, who's totally on vacation today, but was eager to come and see the new projects.